We are doing the second prakaranam. Yatha nato yato bhinnaham taranga fena budbudaham atmano na tatha bhinnam Vishwamatma vinirgatam. Just as the waves are not separate from water, very simple. The bubbles are not separate from water. The froth is not separate from water. So is this universe not separate from the seer. Atma. Atma Shabda means only oneself, one's exist. Apnoti iti Atma, the one who pervades. The seer pervades the form. The hearer pervades the sound. The perceived perceives. Pervades the perceiver, pervades the perceived. And the one who experiences the three states pervades all the three states in the same manner as water pervades all the waves. Therefore, think in terms of everything connected to you. That is very useful. The scene cannot fall outside the domain of the seer. The seen, the heard cannot fall outside the domain of the hearer, the conscious being. Think in those terms. The thoughts cannot fall outside the domain of the thinker. Like the dream doesn't fall outside the domain of the dreamer. It so convincingly looks outside, but on reflection, false convictions fade out. Right reflection destroys false convictions. That the objects are outside my being is a false conviction. That the dream is outside me. The waking state, what I see is outside me, is a false, anadi, erroneous conviction. And right reflection tells you that it's not true. Like the reflection in the mirror is not out there, it is non-separate from the image. You stand in front of the mirror, the reflection looks inside the mirror. That is not inside the mirror. It is not outside you. One's shadow is not outside oneself. One's reflection is not outside oneself. It is non-separate from himself. It's like a shadow, your own shadow is not parallel to you. It looks parallel. When you run, your shadow also runs. When a person runs, the shadow also runs. So the shadow looks parallel to a person. But is it really parallel? Minus the person, there is no shadow. Therefore, just as the shadow is, the shadow, the reflection of an image, the shadow of an image is not separate from the image. So is the seen is not separate from the seer. The perceived is not separate from the perceived. Yatha nato yato bhinnaha tarangaha fena budbudaha. Budbuda means bubbles. Fena means the froth, etc. What is made out of a particular substance is not separate from that substance. A very simple common sense idea. And all that is being unfolded by the Vedanta is that the matter is made of the conscious being. Party is material, and it is also made of the material called clay, inert. The party is inert, and it is made of the inert clay. And we only think in terms of inert things being made of inert substance. But all that Vedanta says is even the entire inert substance called matter, the physical matter, it is all made of the conscious substance. Conscious substance. So if it is made of the conscious substance, it is non-separate from the conscious substance. The examples are always in the form of the objects made of matter. Objects made of matter are not separate from matter. Pot made of clay is not other than clay. An ornament made of gold is not other than the ornament. These are the examples given by the rishis to their children. Uddalaka gives these examples to his son Shvetaketu. Very common sense. What is made of? Sometimes things change, that is different. We are talking about creation. In creation, the clay is made of, the pot is made of clay, but the clay doesn't change. Wave is made of water, but the water doesn't change. An ornament is made of gold, but the gold doesn't change. And the universe is made of you, and you don't change. The only difference is there, the matter is, the material is inert. Here the material is the conscious being. This is the unfoldment. Supposing the pot is made of clay, inert clay, and the whole universe also were made of inert something. If the inert is made of something inert, then where do I figure as a seer? That means I am separate from both. Everything. I become a separate, unconnected entity. Therefore the substance, like the dream is not made out of, the dream world is not made of another material substance. Dream is connected straight away to the one who sees it. The connection is of the seen to the seer. The connection is not of the seen to another material thing behind it. The space is not connected to something behind it. And the universe is not connected to something behind it. It's connected straight to the one who sees. Like the thought is not connected to something behind it. The thought is connected to straight away to the thinker. The perceived is connected to the perceiver. Yatha nato yato bhinnaha tarangaha fena budbudaha. The swabhava is to think. Our impulse is to think. Our inborn thinking tells this universe must be connected to something behind it. We always think of something behind the universe. We don't connect it to the one who sees. This is the swabhava. I don't connect the form to the seer. I think this form may be having some root behind it. I always imagine something behind the universe, something behind the dream, something behind the waking, something behind the space, etc. As long as one thinks that the universe is connected to something behind it, he can never come back to himself. He is lost in imagination. When a person is lost in imagination, and he can't come back to himself. Like a person, when he wants to fall asleep, he is imagining, lies down on the bed and goes on daydreaming, imagining. He won't fall asleep. He won't fall asleep. Just be quiet, you will fall asleep. Be quiet. At least here, I should not only not imagine that there is something behind the universe, I should not only not connect the universe to something behind, but I should also learn to see the connection that is there between the universe and the seer. Not only I should not think wrongly, but I should think rightly. Merely remaining indifferent, not thinking anything doesn't work. Maybe sleep you can slip into. A person just remains quiet. He doesn't think rightly or wrongly or anything. He just becomes quiet. He falls asleep. That is all right. Sleep can happen by being quiet. But understanding doesn't happen just because you are quiet. Quietude itself doesn't lead to understanding. Quietude is useful if you want to reflect. Tranquility is useful if you want to reflect, you want to look at yourself. If you want to reason, if you want to do mananam about your nature, if you want to discern, agar अच्छा सोचना लगे, then mental peace is useful. Mental peace itself does not take you to understanding of the truth, no. Mental peace is sadhanam. It is antaranga sadhanam. It is not sakshat sadhanam. Sakshat sadhanam is I have to do vichara. I have to listen to what Vedanta says. I have to listen to the description of my being, both from Jagat Drishti and from Swarupa Drishti. Adhyaropa Drishti and Swarupa Drishti. I have to listen to the description of the truth. Otherwise, if I am merely mentally peaceful, when you are peaceful, you will fall asleep. But sleep, mental peace is best utilized for studying Vedanta. Atmano nadatha vinnam vishwamatma vinigam. Therefore, this particular point, fix it in your mind. I should not only not think wrongly, but I should think rightly. That is the nucleus. That is the thing. Just living a peaceful life doesn't guarantee knowledge. Peaceful life, sometimes punya karma, you are born with punya karma, and sometimes everything is going on well, so you have relative peace comes even through punya. your health is all right, बाल बच्चे सब ठीक है, बिजनेस ठीक चल रहा है, पैसा आ रहा है और भगत राम की दुकान में सब चीज मिलता है, तब क्या है जी? Then you feel relatively peaceful. It's nothing. To get mental relative peace is not a big deal, but using that relative peace to look at oneself correctly, That is, what I see is not connected to something, another scene. The scene is not connected to another scene. Every scene is connected to the seer. One thought is not connected to another thought. Each thought is not made of another thought. Every thought is made of the conscious thinker. One dream detail is not made of another dream detail. Every dream detail is connected to the dream. Thus learn to connect what you see to the seer. Your heart will resist it. Your mind will resist it. You use all your force to resist your thinking. Why? Because this swabhavika thinking it's like, it is very difficult to not to be angry. Your efforts will be thwarted. Anger happens. Jealousy happens. Greed happens. Impulses themselves. Whenever I try to control, whenever I make an effort to control my impulses, my efforts get thwarted. The impulses resist my effort. Shut up, they say. Don't try to control us. What are you? You are nothing. Maybe you went to Ramana Kendra and you heard one or two talks. And you are trying to control us? How dare? They just snub me. If impulses whenever I make an effort to control impulses, they snub me. Whenever I try to do even Ekadashi, it snubs me. What are you talking? Why do you want to unnecessarily suffer? Don't eat. Any tapasya snubs me. Whenever I make an effort to undertake a penance, it snubs me. When these small things themselves I can't control, I can't change. So difficult. The fundamental thinking that what I see is not connected to something behind it, it is connected to the seer. This change is not easy. Therefore, studying Vedanta, studying truth means changing the swabhavika thinking, rather reversing the impulsive thinking. Reversing. The reversal of universal thinking is the truth. The reversal of universal thinking. You reverse the universal thinking. The universal thinking is that we connect the universe to something behind it. I said, if there is something behind, then we are thinking only spatially behind. If it is spatially behind, then it becomes an object. That means I am connecting the scene to the scene. But Vedanta says, connect the scene to the seer. It's a reversal of swabhavika thinking. ठीक है जी? Not getting bored? If you are getting bored, I can't help it. If you are not getting bored, it is good. If you are getting bored, I can't help. What can I do? That is how Vedanta is. Tantu matro bhavedeva pato yadvad vicharataha atma tanmatra me vedam tadvad vishvam vicharitam. This Ashtavakra Gita just takes you straight to yourself. He doesn't adopt much of a prakriya, but he follows the master prakriya called Adhyaropa Apavada Prakriya. In every verse he has followed the master prakriya. He describes the truth from the Jagat Drishti, and he also describes the truth from its own Drishti. The same way, you look at yourself from the outside drishti, from the external point of view, you are a daughter, you are a mother, you are a wife, you are a husband, you are this, you are that, you are rich, poor, businessman. From your own point of view, you are free from all of them. This is called apavada. When you describe yourself, I am a mother, son, daughter, etc., etc., then it is adhyaropa drishti, namarupa drishti, from the external point of view. Similarly, truth is defined from the universe point of view. And it is also defined, described from its own point of view. When it is described from its own point of view, it is free from the external point of view. All the description that we give of Brahman from the external point of view, from the creation point of view, from the empirical world point of view, that entire description itself is negated. Like empirically we describe you as a son, father, mother, daughter, etc. But this description is only empirical. But from your own point of view, you are none of them. In sleep, what are you? You are free from being all. Thus, only 2 points of view. External point of view and Swarupa point of view, Apna point of view. From your own point of view, you are none of what you are from the external point of view. This is some. Whereas man only thinks of himself from the Adhyarupa Drishti. Swarupa Drishti doesn't. That Swarupa Drishti is taught by Vedanta teaches the Swarupa Drishti. Swarupa Drishti means what you are from your own point of view, you are Brahman. From the external point of view, you may be a father, mother, daughter, son, etc. So these are all called labels. These are all various relationships. All relationships are only from the external point of view. From your own point of view, you have no relationship with anything. Like in sleep, all relationships are severed. All relationships resolve. There is only you. A man who is fast asleep is only being. His body, his mouth may be gaping. Doesn't mean anything. If the flies are going in and coming out, it doesn't matter to him, because for him there is no body, there is no world, he doesn't feel it, he doesn't miss it. इस बातों को, the fundamental experiences of life, you have to look at very diligently, very seriously. It is so amazing that in a second I have nothing to do with this. I am in a state from where there is no relationship. And therefore, this author teaches everything from to these drishtis. Now let us see the verse ji. Tantu matro bhave deva pataha. Pataha means a cloth. Tantu matro, it is nothing but cotton. Nothing but yarn. Thread. Let me translate it as Tantu matra means, let us go straight to cotton. A cloth is, if a cotton cloth is nothing but cotton. Tantu matra, it is nothing but cotton or the yarn made of cotton. Tantu matro bhave deva pataha. A cloth is nothing but cotton or cotton made yarn. Yadvat how vicharataha. Man, when he really is close observant, Close observation tells him that cloth is nothing but cotton. Minus a close observation, you always think cloth is only cloth. We don't think of cloth in any other terms except in terms of cloth. Cloth is a cloth. But cloth is cotton when you reflect. When you look at something, when you observe something, when you closely observe something, it is something else. You understand its swarupam. When I look at the cloth, I say it is a cloth, but that's it. But when I really look into it, what is it made of? What is this made of? When I closely observe it, say it is made of cotton, therefore it is nothing but cotton. Why? Before it was made a cloth, it was cotton. After it was made, it becomes a cloth. No, even though it looks like a cloth, but it continues to be cotton, because the cotton does not lose its identity as cotton. ये sentence को पकड़ना है जी आपको. Just as water doesn't lose its identity as water, clay doesn't lose its identity as clay. When it becomes a pot. This is called srishti, creation. In creation there is no transformation. And anything, when there is a transformation, then we don't call it creation. Transformation is different. When the milk changes and becomes curd, we don't call it creation. We say it's a transformation, it's change. It is not that Vedantis are so bholas, they don't understand the difference between creation and transformation. We are not bholas, ji. Neither the sages were bholas, nor the swamis are bholas. We are not bholas, we understand the difference between creation and transformation. We call this universe creation, srishti, implying that the source doesn't undergo change. Similarly, we call the cloth a creation. Even though the Vaticans or the Christians, the educated Christians, feel a little irritated when we say this is a creation. Because according to them, creation should mean transformation also. But we imply, because it is a creation, there is no transformation. There is no transformation, there is no change. Change is not creation, creation is not change. This universe is a creation, that means in the source there is no change. And the source itself looks the creation, himself becomes the seer also. He looks the seen and he also stands as the seer. That means if it is a creation, the source is intact, and therefore the one who sees the creation also is in fact the source. Thus there is a difference between the source, between the creation and the transformation. The Swabhavika thinking always tells us, if he created, then he must have done some object, he must have done some action. In creation, there is no action. Just as there is in creation, there is no change, just as creation is not change, creation also is not an event. Because creation is not an event, whereas it's not a process. If there is no change, then it's not a process. When the milk becomes a curd through change, then it is a process. And a process means change, time is involved, it is a time-bound program. Change is a time-bound program. You can't really put the milk for curd and next minute you can take it. So in change is a process. Change involves time. When something changes, it loses its original identity. The milk loses its original identity. But the source of the universe, because the universe being a creation, it doesn't imply any change in the source is intact, and this creation is not a process. If it is not a process, it's not an event in time. Therefore, in order to be a good Vedanti, you have to understand these things correctly. A lot of questions become redundant. A lot of our questions, our unnecessary cribbings become redundant. A lot of our depressions become redundant. A lot of people, when they study Vedanta, they become depressed. Why? मेरे doubts clear नहीं हो रहा है. What is the doubt? Why did God create? At what time did He create? Which was the best muhurta? Yeah, these questions. A lot of doubts, all redundant doubts lead to mental depression, I am telling you. Unnecessary doubts. Once we say it is a creation, you must be intelligent enough, bright enough. You must have the akal to understand that it is not a process, it is an appearance. That's called a creation. Creation means not a, you should be brilliant to understand, it's not a process. If it is not a process, then you can't ask any question, it's an appearance. And therefore, don't unnecessarily entertain doubts. Resolve all your doubts through the word creation. This is a creation. Creation means appearance, not a process. Dream is a creation because the source of it is intact. Wave is a creation because the source is intact. An ornament is a creation because the source is intact. Therefore, in Indian context, the word creation is absolutely apt for the universe, because we say creation is something different from transformation. Whereas in the West, you use the word creation, they get irritated. How can truth create something? It has to undergo change, etc. And that is why. That is the difference between a given society's tradition of thinking, and Indian tradition of thinking always tells it is Maya Srishti. Once we say Srishti, it is Maya Srishti. I don't have to qualify the creation as Maya Srishti. Every Srishti is Maya Srishti. हाँ जी, इसको समझ लीजिए. Be intelligent, be bright. Don't think that you can't. ऐसा कुछ नहीं. All educated people can understand the truth. What about the illiterates? Illiterates also have to learn to think correctly, then they can also understand. Have to learn to think correctly. I should break with this conventional wrong thinking. For example, the same thing that we are doing, creation. Creation does not mean any transformation. Tantu matro bhavedeva pataha yadvad vicharataha. And another point, Ji, deeply allow it to impress your mind. That is, unless you look at something very closely, it does not give up its nature. It does not unfold its nature. It doesn't become clear, ji. Whenever you want to, there are certain verses, बचपन से आप लोग कैजुअली पढ़ते आ रहे हैं, अभी तक वो उसको समझ में आता ही नहीं है. लेकिन when you sit down quietly and diligently look at it, you will get it. Sometimes you want to clear the fire. Casually you sit down and then you start yawning. आज नहीं भाई, कल करेंगे. Next day again you sit down for clearing the fire. You open the fire and you get the yawning. चाय पिएंगे, अच्छा आता है. थोड़ा पकौड़ी बना दो. Lack of diligence, please understand. Lack of diligence comes in the way of accomplishing anything in life, I am telling you. Lack of diligence. काम होता ही नहीं है because you are not resolved. And then you get the phone call, the income tax officers are coming. Then you sit down diligently. Within half an hour you clear the whole thing. This is the difference between lack of diligence and diligence. I believe in that. You sit down with diligence, you can accomplish it. And dhira dhala होता नहीं. You can't do. आने छुट्टी का दिन होमवर्क थोड़ी करेंगे. Only if there is school tomorrow, today I do. Only in this evening. शाम को होमवर्क करेंगे. The whole day the children are playing. अभी टाइम है. 6 बजे के बाद 8 बजे को सो जाना है, तब उठेंगे. मम्मी थोड़ा मदद करो. और रोने लगते हैं. And then diligence happens in you only for a little while. The rest of the time sluggish. You are yawning away. And the same thing with Vedanta. I never look at myself diligently. I just keep yawning. बहुत दिन है जी जीने के लिए, अभी क्यों? वैसे भी for Vedanta the best age is when I become old. When nobody wants me, then I have all the time for myself. Therefore, let me first become old. It doesn't work, ji. We yawn away the whole life. And therefore, that is why he says, Yadvad Vicharataha. When you diligently, closely look at yourself, when you closely look at a piece of cloth, it is nothing but cotton. Atma tanmatrameva idam tadvad vishwam vicharitam. Vishwam vicharitam, similarly, if you look at the universe very closely, in relation to yourself. When you look at the universe, don't exclude yourself, please, the seer. When you look at an object, look at it always as seen by you. As seen. Don't dwell upon an object only as an object. I am aware of it. In this manner, connect the object with the subject. Connect even the body to the subject. Don't connect the subject with the object. Connect the object with the subject. Wherever there is wave, every wave is in touch with water. But water is not in touch with wave. Water can exist without there being any wave. Water is independent of the wave, but the wave is not independent of water. ये कुछ बातें विचारितम, when the universe is closely looked at, आत्म तन्मात्रमेव idam vishwam. This whole universe is nothing but pure existence, that is the self. Atma tanmatram. Tanmatram means that alone. Atma Tanmatram. Atma Sanmatram. Tanmatram means Sanmatram. Only Sat. Table is a kind of a creation. The wood is as it is. Similarly, the wood also from the Atma point of view, the wood also is a creation. And the self is the Sat, the source. Therefore, a piece of cloth looked at closely is nothing but cotton. The universe also looked at closely is nothing but the subject. Because you can't connect the universe to another seen thing. If I can change this habit of mine, trying to connect the universe to something behind, there is a Bhagavan behind it. We think this. Dream is not connected to something behind it. Dream is connected to something, the one who dreams. See, you are a dreamer. In relation to the dream, one is a dreamer. But in order to dream the dream state, I have to be fundamentally the seer. Is it not conscious? Therefore, our seer identity is more fundamental than our dreamer identity. I have to be a seer, conscious, in order to be a thinker. I have to be conscious in order to see and hear and taste and touch and smell. I have to be conscious. Therefore, conscious identity. In order to be a thinker, I have to be conscious. In order to be a waker, I have to be conscious. In order to be a dreamer, I have to be conscious. And in order to experience even the negation of the waking and the dream, I have to be conscious. But in order to be conscious, what should be the condition? I say that is our nature. It doesn't have another reason. If the water is hot, it is because it was on fire. If the fire is hot, that is its nature. Think this. Let your diligence help you to discern between what is nature and what has a reason. What is it that has a reason? Our struggling identity has a reason. Struggle has a reason. Unhappiness has a reason. Fear has a reason. And the reason is avidya. Insecurity has a reason. But conscious identity has no reason. That is our nature. Thinker identity has a reason. I become an individual thinker due to avidya. And so many problems happen in life when I don't see my nature. The topic for understanding is nature. What is my nature? That I am a form cannot be my nature. That has a reason, avidya. That I have, that I am limited is not my nature. I feel the limitation due to the reason of self-ignorance. All that I don't like, I feel it in myself, and the reason is self-ignorance. If I see in myself all that I like, then there is no samsara. Limitation I don't like, but I feel it in myself. Struggle I don't like, but I see it in myself. Desire I don't like, but I see it in myself. Anger I don't like because it creates problems. Problems I don't like, but I see myself full of problems.
Fear I don't like, but then I see it in myself. Insecurity I don't like. Samsara is what is universally not liked is what is called samsara. And the reason is self-ignorance. Therefore, samsara has a reason, whereas our eternity is our nature. Conscious identity is our nature. Thus, discerning between what is caused and what is. Conscious identity is. Conscious identity is. Eternity is. And nirviseshatvam is. Whereas the struggle is caused by ignorance. It's not a process, it is caused without causation. If ignorance brings about an error, between non-understanding and misunderstanding there is no causation process, please. Between action and result there is causation. As is the action, so is the result. If the clap is slow, the sound also is slow. If the clap is huge, and the sound is also huge. Good deeds bring about good results, bad deeds bring about bad results, etc. It's called the law of causation. But between ignorance and error, non-understanding and misunderstanding, between the two there is no process, there is no causation. Are you able to follow this? Therefore, what is caused by ignorance is different from samsara is caused by ignorance, whereas conscious identity is. Therefore, santumatro bhavedeva pato yadvad vicharataha atma tanmatrame vedam tad vishwam vicharitam. The next verse G. Yathaive kliptam tena vyaptaiva sharkara tatha vishwam mayi kliptam maya vyaptam nirantaram. Yathaiva, just as. Ikshurase, in sugarcane juice. Ik means, the sugarcane. Rasa means the juice, in the sugarcane juice. Tripta, out of it is created. Sharkara. Sugar is born of sugarcane juice. Vyapta eva. Therefore, sugar is pervaded by sugarcane juice. Sugar is a product of sugarcane juice. A product is pervaded by the material, let us say. Sugarcane juice is sweet, and what is made of it is also sweet. Just as the sugar is made of sugarcane juice, tatha, similarly, Vishwam Mayi Kliptam, the universe is Mayi Kliptam, it is created in the subject. It is not created in the mind. It is not created by the senses. It is not created by the thought. It is not created by the memory. It is an appearance in one's being. Even the senses appear in one's being. Even the mind appears in one's being. One's body appears in one's being. Like the dream world appears where, Ji? In one's being. It looks outside one's being, but it appears. You close your eyes and then dream. Even the mind appears in one's being. Don't say that everything appears in one's mind. No. Even the mind appears in one's being. Like the wave appears where? In the mind of water or in the being of water? The being of water. Yeah. Then the water may think wrongly. That even that thinking is born in the being of water. All that is created in the truth. And please understand, truth doesn't have margins. Margins mean the suburbs of the truth. How to convey this to you? Like you have a sanctum and then you have a prakara and then you have a compound wall. That is called really the margins of the temple. The thieves went to the margins of the temple. They did not reach the sanctum. You can say that, but there is no such a thing when it comes to the truth. Truth doesn't have a sanctum and the margins. The conscious being, the entire truth is its being. Just as the sugar doesn't have a sanctum and the margins, because every bit of it is sweet. What is the sanctum of sugar, ji? गुड़ का सैंक्टम क्या है? Our Saindava Dhana, a sugar, a crystal, a salt crystal, let us say. What is the sanctum of it? Uddalaka says it has no sanctum. Why? Because you put salt in the water and then taste it from above, it is salty. Taste it from the middle, salty. Taste it from the bottom of the pot, it is salty. That means it doesn't have any sanctum. Understand? Otherwise we always think mind is the margins of my being. Mind is not the margins. Nor consciousness is the sanctum. Consciousness is the only nature of the truth. And consciousness doesn't have any sanctum on the margins. You understand the margins? Margins, like there are some people who live on the margins of the society like this. Sometimes you read, you must be reading in some of the books. Margins. Like you have a page, you have a margin, and you keep writing your notes on the margins. This is the page and this is the margins. Truth doesn't have the sanctum versus margins. Therefore, mind also is an appearance in the truth. The entire truth is the sanctum. It has no margins. Swami Shivanandaji Maharaj used to say, the center of the truth is everywhere. Its center is everywhere. Whereas its circumference nowhere. If you are a mathematician, you can understand. It means every living being is the center. With circumference, nowhere means unlimited. It is everywhere and it is unlimited. The truth is unlimited and everything is connected to it. Therefore, Tatha Vishwam Mayi Kriptam, the universe appears not in one's senses. The universe appears not in one's mind. The senses and the universe both appear in one's being. Dream objects do not appear in dream senses. Dream as well as the dream objects as well as the dream senses both appear in the being of the dreamer. The being. That is the magic term, G, the being. Like silence. The sound appears in silence. And silence doesn't have the margins, G. Every bit of silence is silence. Silence doesn't have the sanctum of silence and the margins of silence. And if the sound is slow, sound happens. It is again the appearance of the sounding silence, not the diluted silence. You may call it diluted silence, it means only the appearance of the sound. The sound appears in silence. The universe appears in one's being. Tatha vishvam maya kritam maya vyaptam nirantaram. And it is pervaded by one's being. Don't imagine the pervader of the universe is something else. The very seer of the universe is the pervader. The seer of the form pervades the form. The one who is aware of the sound pervades the sound. Therefore, Ashtavakraji says, in me the universe appears and by me it is pervaded. Just as the sugar appears, sugar is made of sugarcane juice and it is pervaded by sugarcane juice. The entire sugar is nothing but sweetness. And the entire sugarcane juice also is sweetness. The entire universe is the being. And the being also is the being. Anandam. Because to be is Anandam. Nothing else is Anandam. That's why whenever you are happy, you just be. Whenever you are peaceful, you be. When you are peaceful, you be. And whenever you remain being, you are also peaceful. Therefore, Tatha vishvam maya kritam maya vyaptam nirantaram. Last word for today. It has no gaps. There are no spatial gaps in the truth. And there are no time-wise gaps. There are no spatial gaps or time-wise gaps. Like you entertain one thought and you entertain another thought. They say the truth is between two thoughts. Don't listen to this stuff also. Okay, Ji? Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Somebody